Think about this for a second. So Turning Point USA, what do they do? So right now, we know the biggest driver of radical right-wing politics is isolation. The pandemic really helped fuel conspiracy theories and Trump's ascension to another term. All right, COVID broke people's brains. The isolation does. Isolated people in rural areas, especially in homogenous communities, mostly white men, are going to be better radicalized in those conditions. Now, what does the right wing do? They know they are isolated, and Turning Point USA is waiting for these individuals when they are finally able to socialize and get to college. It gives them a social group. It shows these young men, oh, you're isolated here? Oh, it's because of all these groups that hate white men and they killed rural America with all these trade deals and blah, blah, blah. And now Charlie Kirk goes to campuses, makes them feel cool about being in like a social group. They bring like God into it. They have them. I mean, there is girls and guys. They meet their partners there. So they're isolated, become more right wing, watching Asmongold and a bunch of different like far right streamers. Then they go and finally socialize. And the point they go to socialize is Charlie Kirk, who is literally like a KKK. Ideologically, he's a Christian nationalist, like a KKK member. Unironically, he talks about a Muslim born in America is going to destroy Western civilization. We need to deport all legal foreigners and illegal foreigners and the black pilots. All the blacks who fly can't actually fly. They get jobs just because, like, you have to understand how that radical pipeline actually works on the right. And how do we intercept that? Not with the Unf America tour. How do we have a real focused strategy to give social groups and social circles that can make people less isolated and prone to radical ideologies and instead move them into a more pragmatic direction? But the issue is all the people with the big platform, not me, I don't have the platform or the resources, all the people with the platform and the resources have their heads so far up their own ass, they're about to do loop-de-loops in their own body. All right? So they don't see where the pragmatic strategies are, where we need to go. We are too busy fighting the left and making our strategies to go after the right in a way that appeals to the left, to seem like the coolest person, the most pragmatic, the most stylish person on the left. We need someone to understand this media, like infrastructure, ecosystem, whatever, and to replicate it and meet the cause of the root cause of the problem at the source to change it. But we're not going to ever get it, because we're a bunch of pushovers. The Unf America tour fell apart over microaggressions, and now they're led by destiny. Like, we want to connect to real people, regular people on college campuses. This is not the way to frickin' do it. The conversation here is on, should we get rid of all socialists and far lefties? Should we get rid of them from the Democratic coalition?
We be courting the far left. What or who do we consider the far left? Which is more of a threat to America in general? The question was asked, who would you vote for, Hassan or Trump? And I think it's an interesting thought experiment to go through. There were some disagreements, so I thought I'd gather people together to hash those out and have a discussion on it.
By this, Wick means he thinks he can make a lot of money off this, all right? He does not care at all about this conversation. He wants to make money, all right? He likes making money off other people's content.
No, before we begin, I know
just saying.
There's some tensions are high in different communities and things like that, so I might be a little more heavy-handed on moderation than I normally would be, because I do want the topic itself to be discussed at least a little. But other than that, I'm just going to give the mic to you guys and let you guys go at it. We're going to hand the mic first to Econoboy, give his thoughts, and then we'll just kind of go around. Econoboy, start us off.
Yeah. So, for those listening, the topic is courting the far left. I take that to be essentially a political and strategic discussion about whether or not and how exactly we should or should not court the far left. And the way that I think of the far left, there's a lot of polls on this. Based on all the research that I was able to do, about 10% of people that vote for Democrats call themselves socialist, and about another 10% call themselves extremely liberal. So if we were to think Kamala got about 49% of the vote, that's to say that something like 10% of those people are either extremely liberal or socialist by their self-identification. And so I think that what that means to me is that we should take what those people say, those actually existing far left voters, seriously, that to the extent that they have demands, they should have a seat at the table. We should try to come up with some sort of coalition and platform that can balance the needs and desires of the far left and the very, very centrist in the party, recognizing that we're in a big tent. And then when it comes to anti-electoral leftists and anti-democratic leftists, which I'm sure we'll talk about on the show, I think that to the extent that those people have big platforms, Democrats
yeah, I'm going to put up a YouTube Shorts stream as well.
Should engage with those platforms. So if Pete Buttigieg wants to go on Hassan's stream and espouse the greatness of his campaign or the Democratic Party or something, I don't really have a big problem with that. But I don't think that people like that should be part of the inner party or should be invited to the DNC. Somebody like Mamdani, if he becomes the mayor of New York, probably should get a speaking spot at the DNC, but probably not people.
If I was a Democratic politician like AOC or Bernie Sanders, I would stay as far away from Hassan as possible. I would be so far away from Hassan. Hassan is a liability. He wants you to lose. He does not care at all about human beings whatsoever, or about the success of democratic politics in any regard, whether the good Democrats or bad Democrats. Yeah, don't go near Hassan. Mamdani, do not talk to Hassan, bro.
Like Hassan, because it's not clear to me that Hassan is like, quote unquote, an ally of the Democratic Party. And what I'll say is one last thing. I'll say that, I think Destiny had said at some point he'd clarified that essentially people who use the label of socialist should be treated like Nazis. I take that to mean that they should be like very harshly socially excluded from the broader movement of the Democratic Party or like the broader left. But I think that would be extremely counterproductive because, again, these are just a big chunk of the people of the Democratic Party. I think I get accused of wanting to shrink the tent because I want to primary pro-filibuster senators, right? on ideological grounds. But I think to say that we should shun basically everyone that calls themselves a socialist in the Democratic Party, that's to say that we should shun essentially 10% of the base, which is, I don't know, I just think that's much more counterproductive than just trying to build a coalition with them.
Okay.
For the person, okay, so Corey, about Hassan. So like the Vanguard, for example, they said to vote Kamala, all right? Crystal Ball said to vote Kamala. Kyle Kalinske said to vote Kamala. Hassan said Kamala was going to be worse than Trump. We have no idea to tell. We have no way to tell. We have no idea whatsoever. Even now, Hassan refuses to say if it was worth voting Kamala over Trump. Hassan refused to say at all to support Democrats in the past election. He openly said he wants Democrats to fail. He said nothing about all these Americans losing their health care. He does not care whatsoever. If he cares, it's so that people suffer, because he thinks he can radicalize people that suffer. Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, Vanguard, they all showed an example of caring about other human beings and not just caring about their own pet political projects. But Hassan has not done that at all. Hassan, he's not a good guy.
Thank you, and we will get into it as we go. I'm going to hand the mic next to Pisco.
Yeah, so it obviously depends on what you mean by court and what you mean by the far left. So obviously, I would be in support if by far left you mean people like Mamdani, people like AOC, these kinds of people who identify, Bernie Sanders as a socialist. I think that there are absolutely things that we can agree on with socialists, and we're a big tent enough coalition if what you mean by far left includes those people. But ultimately, this is a conversation I think about semantics. What is the far left? Who are the group of people who are like anti-liberal or anti-constitutional that you want to exclude? And to what extent do you want to exclude them? Does exclude mean invite them don't invite them to create a party platform? Does exclude mean not interact with them in any respect, even as Econoboy mentioned, to use their platform either for a debate or to promote the candidacy or to try to convince people? I don't know if I'll go that far. I certainly wouldn't want to incorporate any Marxist-Leninist ideas into the Democratic platform if that's what's being meant by courting the voters or courting the far left. So ultimately, it's a semantic argument, but we're not here for that. We're here because, in my opinion, there's been a bad faith campaign to basically smear me and Econoboy and Josiah as having moved to the far left, as having put space in our coalition to really allow for anti-democratic, anti-constitutional ideas and to not push back on them. And I think what you'll find that there are tensions right now, I think, in the different coalitions, the different viewer bases, but they don't have to do with a big substantive disagreement. I encourage everyone who's watching, actually look during the course of this conversation, how much disagreement substantively is there going to be? If we're talking about this semantic game about what a socialist is a socialist a Nazi? Steven is going to just fucking get crushed on that argument by Econoboy in terms of what a normal person means by the term socialist and how those terms are used.
That's very true. When it comes to normal people and the way they talk, New York City did not have a bunch of socialists supporting Mamdani. That's not the case at all. Socialists, actual far left socialists, they only matter with Hassan and Hassan's audience and people like that, to be honest. Not many Democrats are going to be like that. If they are like that, they believe in socialism or communism as an idealistic vision, but they are actively social democrats or liberals. Okay, if you are, you can have the beliefs of ideally someday, I hope we have a communist utopia or whatever. But I know a lot of liberals who can say that, but pragmatically in the real world, they don't identify as socialist. It's very easy to do that.
If he can produce any evidence whatsoever that me, Econoboy, or anyone on Live and Learn did something wrong in
Pisco, right out the gate, is taking this very personally with Destiny, and I have not seen all the Twitter fights about this topic, but he's taking it very, very personally, trying to frame it in a certain narrative. I think he tells the audience, I saw the very beginning of this before I thought about watching this on stream, but he tells the audience to view the conversation in a certain way as well, trying to, direct how everyone's going to perceive it.
Bringing on the Vanguard. Notice if you can bring up anything that shows that we are taking a kind of illiberal approach or trying to do some kind of bad faith, a courting of the tanky vote. If you can point to any specifics, or really just going to have more fucking nitpicking on the sides while he encourages and frankly, I think smears us as
The video is at 1.25, by the way, if it's fast.
Tankies, anti-liberal, and anti-constitutional. So I'm here definitely to get clarity on terms and to notice actually what is the room of substantive disagreement here, or is all of this a fugazi to cover up spite and personal conflict between him and other streamers? And is there really evidence that we're moving to the tanky left or the illiberal left?
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and I'm sure we'll get into all of that. Let's give it first to counterpoints. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my issue with this whole thing is that there are socialists, which I define, I think, in a good faith way, for the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. There are also communists who believe that the end
His mic is blown up right now.
result of our...
What's going on there? I don't even want to hear him. That hurts my ears. What's going on? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
politically ineffective. That's my argument.
Okay, thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, Destiny, go ahead.
You don't blame Pisco? I mean, sure. Destiny engages with everybody in a toxic way. I was talking to the director and DMs of the UNF America tour. I was considering joining that, but first off, the name UNF America tour, I need to respond to them as well. I've been thinking about it. The name UNF America tour, that name is terrible versus TPUSA. The point of TPUSA is it's very covert and slick and sly, and they work their way in university infrastructure in a very discreet way while using dog whistles to sell their propaganda. They don't come out very in a very abrasive way to sell their ideas. So the UNF America tour fell apart after, because of microaggressions, a really dumb scandal. And I support the mission of it. The name's a little bit cringy, but also the way Destiny handles himself on the internet is really hard to deal with. Really hard to deal with, okay? If I made all my money from content, then I would consider it. I just don't know if I can, because I don't know. It's not the best brand to be associated with for real life stuff, which makes it difficult.
Yeah, so I think that when I was making the rounds debating Nazis in 2016 to 2018, one of the most common things that I heard from kind of like the centrists that basically gave more credence to all of the far right ideas was point to where I support this. Show me where I said that I'm racist. Show me where I said that I hate Jewish people, or I'm anti-Semitic, or I'm, trying to be a white supremacist. And there was always this like annoying fight that I would have to do where in order to start debating the Nazis, I'd have to chew through all of these epic centrists first who would say, well, I'm just a classical liberal. I'm Sargon of Akkad. I'm not actually a white supremacist. I just happen to give cover for all of these people. I don't think Econoboy or Pisco or Josiah or any of these other people, I don't think they're becoming tankies or anything like that. I just think there's a very annoying cover that's given to a lot of these people where there's like, we can 100% discern and decipher every single intention that Donald Trump has. We have no problem calling him a fascist outright. But then when you have people that hate the Democrats, that shit on our candidates, that attack everybody on our side constantly, we're like, well, I don't know what they really think or how they really feel. Or when it comes to people like Hassan, like even earlier today in my subreddit, Econoboy, when asked about supporting Hassan, will say things like, well, I don't think I necessarily agree with him.
No one does more free advertising for Hassan than Destiny. He brings him up constantly 24/7. He gives more power to Hassan's name. I know Hassan's pretty big regardless. But holy crap. In conversations with like normies, he'll bring up Hassan and tankies, as if Americans know what tankies mean. Or what tankies means. And you have to be able to connect words that make sense to people. It really is annoying how much he brings up Hassan.
On everything. Like he says, I don't have a generally positive view of Hassan, and I think I would flatly agree with many of the criticisms levied at Hassan. That's just in my mind, even though it seems like there's some kind of separation there. That's just a wild statement to make from somebody who openly supports terrorist groups that kill civilians, or openly supports enemies of the United States, or openly supports the subversive propagandizing of our entire political party to hijack the entire movement to destroy if not the Democratic Party, maybe even all of the entire United States of America. So I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't think it behooves us to just say all of this is a semantic disagreement. I think it's actually really important.
I don't even disagree with Destiny's criticisms. The way he frames them is so unhinged and disconnected from what normal people are going to receive. Like if you watch Hassan, again, the dog whistles and the messaging, like he just did terribly there. That was terrible. Like you have to be able to slide in the criticisms a little bit better and frame it for the audience. What are they going to take from that if they just watch a normal Hassan stream? Because Hassan hides it pretty well. His true intentions with the party, or if he supports radical factions, if he just supports like killing Israeli civilians and stuff like that, like he hides that very well in conversation. So you have to respond in a like manner with effective rhetoric. It just
important to define what a leftist is, because I think that it's important for the people to know where everybody stands, and it's important to get rid of people that are intentionally trying to obscure.
Like, okay, so a real conversation to have with the left that would make sense, that's not going to happen on this panel, is should we convince Hassan viewers to accept so-called progressive Zionists? So you use Zohar Mamdani, all right, and you use Brad Lander, who is a Jewish controller of New York, the highest elected Jewish man in New York City, who believes in Israel and the Israeli state standing as a Jewish state. Okay, so he endorses Mamdani and builds coalition. You use that as an example for why you ally with progressive Zionists in their language and convince Hassan viewers who don't vote to vote. That should be the entire messaging strategy. Use a real world application. This is a place where a democratic socialist was able to win. All right, all you Hassan viewers, here is the roadmap. Here's an area where coalition matters and works. And Brad Lander still agrees that we should be pausing like offensive weapons at least to prevent like starvation campaigns. And he believes in the dignity and freedom of the Palestinian people. Although he's not going to run around saying genocide, Joe, genocide. We should be, cutting off all aid to Israel and ending Israel as a country. Like, although Brad Lander is not saying that for the very far left, he still is a great person. He still will form coalition with you. And the way Hassan and his viewers conduct themselves pushes away coalitions that can help progressives and the left win. And that's one of my goals on my channel when I talk to actual people about this stuff. Now, it's not going to happen on this shitty-ass panel, which is internet-focused and online-focused and only based around freaking Charlie Kirk and Hassan and all their different egos on screen right now, including Wick trying to make money off this. That's the real discussion to have for people that are on colleges right now who are considering if they want to vote for Democrats in the future over the issue of Gaza. And no one is being a proper steward to this conversation. And none of the big voices who have huge audiences are good at navigating this conversation. And that's why I want to grow. That's why I want my channel to be bigger.
Their beliefs and come in under the guise of being a leftist without actually stating, what their position is, and then having this like this dual role that they get to play where they can propagandize people and radicalize them without actually ever stating what it is they're trying to do. Are you for the complete and total abolition of our democracy, or are you just somebody who wants the government to do more stuff?
And just to get clarity, so we know what we're talking about, Destiny, are you saying that Econoboy and Pisco are running cover for those leftists that you think are infecting the Democratic Party, or however you want to put it, right?
Yes, but I don't think it's like they're secretly tanky and
it's not nefarious.
So they want to provide cover for their tanky friends. I think it's more just like this. There's something that
misguided
happens in the Democrat brain, and I've been guilty of it too, where you're so obsessively trying to seem like even-handed that you get rooted out in this world where you're like, I'm trying to be fair, and I don't want to have like Hassan derangement syndrome, so I'm just going to say, they're not that bad. I don't know that much about any of this. I'm not sure, whatever. But what it happens, what it causes is this reality where, the conversation for this podcast, what was talked about earlier, was should we appeal to leftists when it comes to gaining political power? When do leftists talk about appealing to liberals to try to gain political power? Or when do leftists say, hey, maybe we should chill on shitting on the party, forever and ever when it comes to getting political power? Like, why is the conversation only ever on the Democratic?
When AOC and Bernie Sanders talk about Israel's right to defend itself, and Bernie Sanders votes for Ukrainian aid and votes against Israeli aid, and has a nuanced perspective on that's an example of coalition building and trying to come to the center. Leftists in America, it's such a dumb word to use. Use liberal, progressive, and then leftist. All right, because Hassan would be a leftist, far leftist, or use socialist, or we need a better, or communist. Call him a communist. Americans think what he believes is communism anyway, which it might be. Use words that people understand. Don't group in too many people together, bro.
Side of things. That's just very wild to me.
Okay. Well, the floor is open.
Should some
I was going to say they do. They say they're going to co-opt the movement.
I have a question. Yeah. So this is both to Connor and to Steven. Should some socialists, at least some, be catered to, be appealed to, and be part of the coalition?
No.
So you would agree, therefore, that Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Mamdani should not be catered to and part of the coalition, correct?
Depends on what you mean when you say catered to.
Should they, for example, should we support the head of the ticket being a socialist like AOC, Mamdani? If they are the nominees, should we support them?
Yes, but that doesn't mean you're catering to socialism.
Okay, but you understand. So
wait, hold on. You recognize that supporting somebody at the top of a ticket. Well, if you want to play the yes or no question, I can play the same game.
There is no catering to socialism. When Biden went towards Bernie Sanders, Bernie Sanders had Biden go for a minimum wage increase, for the Inflation Reduction Act, all those provisions with green energy. Bernie Sanders had Biden go for an increase in corporate tax. It failed, but he went for it. Like, that's what happens. It's a compromise for progressivism and a social democratic or democratic socialist, whatever you want to say, leaning. Okay, there is no conversation in America about socialism. It's such a...
You understand that supporting somebody being at the top of the ticket doesn't mean that you are centrally supporting their ideology. For instance, it's possible to cater to, in a roundabout way, people that are further to the left of you without catering to far leftist beliefs.
Correct,
right?
but you would agree, like, if the socialist is at the top of the ticket, socialist like Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Party should support the socialist at the top of the ticket, correct?
It depends what you mean by support, but generally, yeah, I think you should support who's...
So you're okay with socialists being part of the coalition, correct?
I don't really know if I consider Bernie Sanders or AOC to be like socialists.
And why is that exactly?
Because I don't think that they like fit under conventional definitions of socialism.
Do they want the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production?
Yeah, so that's your definition. That's your proprietary definition of.
Is socialism just basic human needs? I feel like socialism is further than just basic human needs. Isn't socialism workers owning literally everything, decommodifying pretty much everything? Or you'd be a social democrat.
Socialism, but you
That's
agree.
most.
And again, you can be a communist or a socialist and still be a social democrat or a liberal to be pragmatic in the system.
Socialist definition.
So for example,
Econoboy, do you disagree with my definition?
Yeah. Okay. So just to hop in here. So yeah, I disagree
You don't.
that is. Okay. Do you want me to answer the question, Connor?
Give Econoboy
Okay.
space to answer. Go ahead, Econoboy.
So
I want you to do a line of Adderall.
Let Econoboy answer. Go ahead.
I probably should have done an edible instead of Adderall before entering this debate. But to answer your question, similar to capitalism, socialism is a diverse universe of people. There's a lot of people.
Jolah, what the hell, dude? Saying Hassan is supporting killing Israeli civilians and hiding it? Hassan has literally said he wants Israeli civilians to die so they learn their lesson and Israel stops attacking Gaza. Like, he has said that's okay. He wants to disarm Israel when it comes to defensive weapons, because that's why the whole online left wanted to, burn AOC at the stake over her vote against Marjorie Taylor Greene, the anti-Semites amendment that would have done nothing last week. Like, they have said this multiple times. Like, Hassan said that the babies, he said there are settler babies that are military targets, that are proper military targets in like the West Bank. Like, he has said all of these different things, and he shows no. He supports Hamas and Hezbollah. He supports all these groups, and you can. That's fine. You can do that. Like, that's a position you can have, but that is the position he's taking. That's why AOC does not say those things or support those things, and that's why online leftists go against AOC so aggressively, because they agree more with Hassan on many of those things. They think if we disarm Israel, they're going to learn their lesson. My position is disarming Israel, when it comes to defense, if Israeli civilians were dying at a higher level, they'd become even more radicalized. They would probably go even quicker with what they're doing in the region. It's really hard to say. It's hard to say, all right? There's a bunch of different ways all this stuff can go. Hassan has said these things multiple times. I don't know how much you watch him, but
People who call themselves socialists, some of them are Marxist-Leninists, some of them are like what you might call like moderate, like right-wing socialists, I guess, like me.
someone said, aren't you putting the Palestinians in a death sentence if you block all aid for Israel's defensive aid? Yeah, at that point, they would just go scorched earth. Like that. I mean, right now, they still have internal politics. They still have influence from the U.S. That's why having Kamala Harris as president right now with a starvation campaign, they probably don't get away with it under Kamala Harris, okay? Now, they would still do terrible things in Gaza, don't get me wrong. But the current starvation policy, Biden, that was one thing they actually did prevent with the American political pressure under Biden. When Biden built that pier, that one dock or whatever, for aid, when they were dropping aid care packages, and Biden got criticized for not doing enough. I agree, he didn't do enough, he was too weak on it, but also it was still something. And Israel right now, as you can see, they hate Biden. You think Biden was weak on Israel. Israel hated Biden. Look at Netanyahu on the Nelk Boys podcast. I mean, I'm just talking about the objective facts on the ground here. It's not even my opinion here. I'm saying things that are just facts and people's quotes. I'm not even saying my opinion on the conflict. I'm just letting you know what other people have said about it and what their positions are and what the realistic game theory would be with Israel and Gaza right now and in general.
Who say that we should just collectivize the ownership of production. People have different ways of defining these things. For instance, capitalism includes people all the way from Fabian Liberty to people like Destiny, who basically endorses the Nordic model, right? And they're both capitalists, right? And so I think that of the 10% of people who call themselves socialists and are part of the Democratic Party base, obviously that's a very diverse group of people, ranging from the exact, essentially, people that I just mentioned as well. And I think that's a very sensible way to look at who calls themselves socialist and why. To
Then saying Mamdani's not a socialist or that Bernie's not a socialist, that's crazy.
Just one more sentence to Destiny's point about when do like the left wingers ever cater to the moderates? Well, I mean, I seem to remember people like Bernie Sanders and AOC taking very collaborative positions with people like Biden when he was in office. And I seem to recall like Mamdani, he took a very collaborative position with people like Brad Lander. And Mamdani's campaign, to the extent that it appealed to people broader than just the left wing, he made that conscious decision to do that. He didn't run on a campaign.
I feel like Econoboy is going to be the best person here in this conversation. I just assume Econoboy so far has hit all the pragmatic points very good. But yeah, I mean, Bernie Sanders, look at the number of events he did for Kamala, for Hillary, for Biden. Bernie ranked among the top, I think, 3 or 4 in total events done. He did tiny town halls and union halls all across America for Harris, even though he did not really like Harris that much. Yeah, I don't know.
Campaign of seizing the means of production. He ran on a campaign of like freezing the rent and providing childcare to people, right? I mean, I take that to be in some sense a means to cater to a broader base of people than just left-wingers, essentially.
So I think that if we want to talk about catering to socialists, I think that the issue that we have is there exists a world where you have a bunch of like Bernie Sanders, AOC, maybe Mamdani types of people that are part of your movement and part of your coalition. And I think that if we lived in a world where there was a rich media environment with a lot of people who were socialists, who, some supported the liberals, some kind of didn't, and some were like really against it, then we could have that conversation. But right now, it seems basically ubiquitous across the entirety of the left-wing media landscape to aggressively and violently shit on and attack Democratic candidates as harshly as possible. I just saw, and I'm sure you guys saw, that Vanguard tweet saying that Pete Buttigieg looked like and smelled like a rat. Pete is one of the most like popular Democratic figures making the rounds on shows. I just watched Crystal Ball fucking roast the fuck out of a senator from Michigan because she wouldn't give like the singular one answer on the
that was bad politics.
Gazan issue. If this is the
but okay, people don't know about this, but the Biden White House worked with influencers. They paid them. Kamala worked with influencers that openly made fun of Bernie Sanders when he had a heart attack and called for Bernie Sanders to be in a coffin like multiple times, like that Too Raw Too Real page on Twitter. He has said some of the most disgusting things about Bernie Sanders, and he is paid by the DNC, paid by the White House, or by the Biden White House, or the DNC connected to the branch for their media side. The White House did not pay them, I don't think, directly, but he was in the White House multiple times. The shit, the liberal centrists and the K-Hive and the things they've said about Bernie is way worse than those things about Pete and stuff. This is really not fair.
World we're going to live in where you want to say, oh, well, socialism encompasses a broad range of people. But when I look to the media environment, almost every single person that would even flirt with the label socialist relentlessly shits on the Democratic Party. I don't know if I can really say, yeah, sure, we should also appeal to these people. It's just not the right media environment.
There's a definitional issue here, which is you're saying that Bernie Sanders and Zoran Mamdani are not socialist. Explain that.
That's not really responsive to anything I just said.
No, because you were not responsive to the issue.
Can I explain it?
Which has to do with the definition. Yeah. So the question is, if you're defining socialism to only include the people that Steven doesn't like, then maybe there's not actually a disagreement here in terms of who should be leading the party or something. But
I wasn't defining socialism with people I don't like. I was defining socialism. So we can talk about definition of socialism. What I'm looking at right now is the socialist media environment. My earlier argument was that I don't know if I would even consider Bernie Sanders, AOC to be hardcore socialists. If I wanted to supply that argument,
socialist at all.
Sure, socialists at all. Well, right now, who are the socialists all shitting on almost more than anybody else? AOC and Bernie Sanders. So
whether they're shitting on them or not, Steven, whether they're shitting them or not isn't the question. That's a separate question. Are they shitting or not shitting? The question is, should socialists be part of the coalition? You just said that Bernie isn't a socialist. He identifies as such. AOC's not a socialist. She identifies as such. Mamdani isn't a socialist. She identifies as such. What's your evidence they're not socialists?
So identifying as a political thing doesn't make you that political thing. That's a tautology and no nonsense, number one. And number two, the question wasn't should they be part of the coalition. The question is should we appeal to them? Those are two fundamentally completely different questions.
That's me.
Now here, okay, Destiny said tautology and a bunch of big words that I'm too stupid for. He could say, for example, what I said earlier. So you can be idealistically a socialist and be pragmatic in the way you do politics. That's the easy way to say that. But of course, Destiny is brain poisoned from the internet. So
to be clear, though, you're narrowing your position.
The simple tautology, the way you describe the verbiage and the wording and framing there.
Anyone that uses the socialist label should be treated like a Nazi.
Correct.
Right? Now,
in the media environment is what we're talking about. Though. I'm commenting on your show.
Then Destiny. Okay, well that's what you said last night. You're clarifying just people within the media environment. Then I'm just saying that that's a useful narrowing of the discussion. Then because
you can call it a narrowing if you want, but anybody that's watched any I don't shit on AOC, I don't shit on Bernie Sanders even, and I've been supportive of them.
I think useful is one way to put about it. I think useful is one way to put it. I think Weasley is another way to put it, and I think it is Weasley. I think you're backing off of the strong position. The strong position is socialists shouldn't be a part of socialists shouldn't be a part of our fucking coalition. And now when you're getting pushed, I guess now it's the media environment. Yeah, but you took a strong position.
I didn't say socialists shouldn't be part of the coalition. I said we shouldn't be trying to actively appeal to socialists. Do you understand that those are two separate things?
They're different statements. They're correct. They're different statements. But you said
no. They mean fundamentally two completely
different
things,
statements that mean different things. They're two different statements that mean two different things. But your position is it your position therefore for, that the Democrats should, as part of their coalition in terms of who to vote for, what kind of policy support, to humor people like Mamdani, humor people like AOC, and humor people like Bernie Sanders. And if that's the truth, then I think that it's almost
I don't know what that statement means. Should they humor them? Like, what does that mean? Like, put them on the ballot? Well, I don't know what that question means.
Should they have a seat at the table? Whatever you take the seat at the table.
What is a seat at the table? Like, if they go to the Outback Steakhouse or Applebee's?
So for example, you're the one who says that we need to excise these people from the party. I actually don't know what you mean by that. So whatever your vision of having a seat at the table, not being excised is, whatever you're using when you say these people need to be gone, under that definition, do you think? Okay,
sure. Let's let Destiny.
Destiny means he sees Hassan be really cringe and dumb, and he thinks every single leftist or progressive is like Hassan. Therefore, he hyper-focuses on it, and he can have no real conversations about progressive power building and coalition building in a sober manner because he is brain poisoned by Hassan, okay? And I am in the middle of Pisco and Destiny ideologically, so I can fire at both of them being unreasonable, but you got to be a little bit more honest here. I mean, Destiny shits on Bernie all the time. The question is, which is a reasonable criticism, all right? What is reasonable? What is pragmatic? That's the only question. It's not, should you do this? You know, can you do this? Can you not do that? There is nuance and discipline and everything.
Those are good questions, Pisco, and I'd like to know the answers too, right? What do you mean, Destiny, when you say we need to excise these people? What, like, how do you see that?
My fixation is almost universally on the media environment when I'm having these conversations. I think when I was watching you guys talk, it was also generally on the, although sometimes you guys would try to go back to AOC, but like,
that was bad politics, bro. How is Crystal roasting the Chuck Schumer-backed husk of a human being? You realize she is a very popular senator, Slotkin, from Michigan, a swing state. Like, she's a very popular senator from a swing state. You have to think about that for a second. How are you ever going to make political change if you very quickly, if you aggressively and if you act in a very toxic manner towards them 24/7? How do you ever build a coalition to make change? I mean, you need to have them support your political aisle at least a little bit. You need to be somewhat likable and be smart in your criticisms in a way where no one can disagree whatsoever. Crystal Ball, in her worldview, with her information, her approach makes sense. But if everyone agreed with her already, if everyone agreed with me or you or you or you already, then we would not need to do a thing called convincing. We can just say facts or logic, and everyone agrees with us. There's a way to convince people, a way to do this thing. Okay, you have to understand. You have to be very careful here. Okay, be very careful. Think about it. Okay, Slotkin is a popular Democrat. She's not my favorite. She's not my favorite. I am to the left of Slotkin. I am definitely to the left of Slotkin. But she's a very popular Democratic senator in Michigan. If you cannot work with Slotkin, if you don't take the time and have the discipline to work with someone like Slotkin, then you can't tell yourself you really care about Palestinians. I'll be honest. Because you are acting in a morally virtuous way, in your opinion, but you are leaving the pragmatism at the door. And if you cannot effectuate your moral system to impact the world, to help people that you say you care about, then how good is you being right really going to do?
Politicians operate kind of in a different world than the media environment operates in. Most of my criticism on the media environment that all calls themselves like leftists or socialists seems
Japan's getting hit by a tsunami? Japan, I'll have to look that up then. New people are joining the stream. Please drop a like and hit subscribe. Drop a like. Thank you for joining me. Trying to get this in the algorithm. I stream on regular YouTube and also YouTube Shorts. But yeah, drop a like.
To relentlessly shit on Democrats. And I just think it's a really unhealthy and bad world, again, where...
Base take, can you tell this to Pisco? Which part would Pisco disagree with?
You see a Michigan senator wants to...
I don't think Pisco would disagree with that, I'll be honest.
...her toes into the podcasting world, and one of the jokes I made about Kamala is one of the reasons...
Okay, wait. Destiny's point here might be pretty good.
Where you see a Michigan senator wants to dip her toes into the podcasting world, and one of the jokes I made about Kamala is one of the reasons why she probably didn't do any shows is because she would get fucked by the right, the centrist, and the left, and she goes on a leftist show and she gets fucking shit on because they only want to talk about fucking Palestine. This is a senator from a blue state, from Michigan. Jesus, that's insane to me. And it would be nice if we actually had like a strong center-left position and a strong center-left media apparatus, and not just a bunch of leftists who fucking hate the party and want to shit on us all day.
Do you understand our position to be that we disagree with your assessment that leftists constantly shit on the Democrats? Do you think that we disagree on that?
I'm not sure all the time.
So you're not sure. So we're here to discuss something where you're not sure if we agree with you on the position that the lefties constantly.
Okay, really quick, everyone in YouTube Shorts, go to the regular stream. I'm gonna just do the regular stream tonight since we're doing more like YouTube content. I'll do the YouTube Shorts for call-ins later on when I'm done reacting to this debate. But everyone in the YouTube Shorts, come to the full screen for a little bit. We never get to be in horizontal. All right, let's hang out in horizontal for a little bit. See my full image.
Disagree on that?
I'm ending the short stream.
I'm not sure all the time.
So you're not sure. So we're here to discuss something where you're not sure if we agree with you on the position that the lefties constantly shit on Democrats in ways we don't like. We agree that lefties constantly shit on Democrats in ways that we don't like. We agreed with Hutch, for example, when they constantly shit on people like Biden in certain ways, even though I shit on Biden in some respects. We agreed on the AOC tweets that they shouldn't have shit on her that way. And so there's no disagreement there. So that obviously isn't what we're here to discuss on a point where you're unsure that we disagree on.
I wasn't saying that we had. I was asserting strongly that we massively disagreed there. So what was
I got something I massively disagree with. So, I think that every single leftist that I've talked to online, anybody who has any kind of political knowledge whatsoever, defines socialists as decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning the means of production, and they use that definition repeatedly.
Just really quick for the chat too, that might have an issue with what I'm saying about that. So like if I want to convince someone, let's say I know someone who's like racist, okay? If I go up to them and say, you have white privilege, you're a disgusting, toxic man, you're evil, blah, 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 and this is why you're disgusting and you don't understand the systemic issues in society, the inequities that you privilege, you benefit from with your privilege and blah, 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 and you're evil, disgusting, you freaking suck. Now, it's a righteous cause. It's a very moral cause. It's like, okay, we need, a fair set of situations in America, obviously. We know we want that and we want civil rights. But if I go aggressively at someone, they're probably going to become more hardened in their shell, all right? But what I'm saying about, like, Crystal Ball and Slotkin, if I want to get someone to be less racist, for example, I might give them a book by a black man who was wrongfully put on death row because he was black and they framed him for a crime. And after 30 or 40 years of being in prison and fighting God, he was finally, released because I think his name was like Anthony Hinton or something. Maybe I'll show them, have them read a book on someone's experience because they never talked to anyone from they don't have a base of information to change their beliefs yet. You need to introduce something first before you just yell at someone. You have to make people think they came to the conclusion on their own. You can't strong arm and bully someone into the position. You can bully them in a way that I do on my stream where I say you need to understand this shit. You can't just keep on saying bullshit and thinking it's going to lead you somewhere. You can't keep on not researching anything. You could pressure someone to do the work, but you can't just be morally righteous and shut people's brains off, shut their brains off before you have a chance to convince them.
I think that my frustration is that there are a bunch of quote unquote social democrats who talk about universal health care, or they talk about, making rent cheaper or some shit like that, which are social democratic Scandinavian policies. And I think they're using the term socialism backdoor in order to rehabilitate the image of this.
Last pause. So like this guy right here, all right, he was on death row for like 30 or 40 years. Framed for a murder, all right. There was a gun that could have showed he was innocent, but no one would inspect the gun. And finally, someone agrees to come inspect the gun. All right, he's a black man. They say he's guilty. No one wants to help the black man in Alabama. But finally, years and years later, someone inspects the gun, says, hey, the bullet fired to kill this person could not have fired from this black man's mother's gun or whatever was the story. Now, this story of him surviving on death row for 30, 40 years, whatever, and getting out, that book and having that understanding, that base level understanding could help before you yell at someone. You have to give them, you could lead a horse to water, but drink the booze, Yes.
And not just that, Hassan Piker and plenty of far lefties, plenty of MLs, probably the Vanguard as well, they're ecstatic that this is happening. They're ecstatic that Mamdani has social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that AOC have social democrat policies. They're ecstatic that Bernie Sanders have social democrat policies because it rehabilitates the word in my mind. That shift of the Overton window to the fucking far left is an insidious plot by twats to manipulate the Democratic Party further left, and it's going to ruin electoralism.
So we're going to get some actual clarity here. So to be clear, Stephen, you don't disagree that people like Mamdani, AOC, and Bernie, they're fine to be in the party, and we're fine to appeal to the kind of issues that they care about in their positions, correct? You don't have a problem with that?
But what I would say, hold on, real quick.
I'm asking Stephen a question. I'm going to get to you and see if you disagree with Stephen.
Shit. Second, I want to say something before you and Destiny talk for the next 40 fucking minutes. What I would say is that if the socialists are proposing social democrat policy, but then they get what they want, and then they try to yank the political window further left, that is something 100% that I oppose. Destiny, you and Pisco, go ahead and fight for the next 10 minutes.
I just want to ask, and I'm going to go to you, Connor, and see if you agree with Destiny, because I think we might all have a more disagreement with you, Connor, than we have within each other in terms of the substantive opinion. So I'm going to ask Stephen, do you have a problem with these people, the people identified, Mamdani, Sanders, AOC, being part of the Democratic coalition, and however you define Democratic coalition, and having their positions catered to, or people having their positions in general as part of the Democratic coalition? Do you have a problem with that?
Okay, so there's two separate questions. So one, like generally, I'm probably almost always going to support a blue candidate over a red candidate in this current media environment or in this current political environment. Number one, but number two, when you say, do you have a problem appealing to them? I mean, that means different things. If you say like, would I have a problem if we were to appeal to Bernie Sanders coming out and saying, I want to socialize all of the means of productions in the United States, I would have a problem with that. But if you're saying, do you have a problem appealing to Bernie and AOC and Mamdani saying, we need to find ways to make rent cheaper in cities, and that might mean a policy like rent control that I personally don't like, but if they want to try it, I mean, I wouldn't be like fundamentally opposed to having it as part of my party's platform. Then no, I mean, like it would depend on what things we're talking about appealing to.
Like, agreed. You're okay with the socialists being at the top of the Democratic ticket in the sense of socialists in the Bernie
But
Sanders
again,
sense.
but this is part of the issue. You call it
Is that right or no? Am I wrong?
You can't. This is not like a simple thing. You're like doing like a what is a woman at me? What is a socialist?
No, I'm asking.
Oh my God.
Do you
Do you have a problem with Bernie Sanders being at the top of the ticket?
You gotta let
That's a specific question.
Top of the ticket? No, like if him being a senator from Vermont, no. If he was president, probably not.
Yeah. So
but when you say a socialist, if you're talking about somebody who wants to abolish by law all of private enterprise and maybe even attack the democratic underpinnings of our political parties, right, and have a single party rule, I would be opposed to that.
But that doesn't describe Bernie.
Again, bro, this whole 20 minutes is boiled down to pragmatically, you act in the system to make it better for all people. You might have idealistic beliefs as a socialist or a communist or whatever, but pragmatically, Bernie Sanders, AOC, they work as social democrats essentially, and they push to reform the current system to be better. They don't want to topple it like Hassan does. Pragmatic versus idealism, all right? You don't got to be pragmatically what you are ideally, all right? You can have a difference there. That's all this conversation needs to be, but yeah, online brain poison.
It doesn't describe Mamdani, and doesn't describe AOC, correct?
No, but Mamdani, Bernie, and AOC are on the outer perimeter of what is considered socialist, and they're attacked by the center part of what is socialist. That's my issue. You could probably find an outer perimeter fascist that I might be okay with. If he's some fascist who's like, yeah, I think we should protect America as an ethno-state, and I'm defining ethno-state as like the current ethnic composition of America, and I think that we should have like stronger rules on immigration. I was like, yeah, I probably fucking support this dude or whatever.
And you understand, and Econoboy would lay this out, that Bernie, AOC, these types, they come from a long tradition of democratic socialists from like UK, Australia. He brought up Clement Attlee, and
I mean, that's what Charlie Kirk does, right? He campaigns as a strong on borders Republican. They're super strong on borders. Now Trump's in the White House, and Charlie Kirk's like, we got to get rid of both the illegal and the legal foreign invaders. And also, if there's a Muslim running for mayor, even if he's born in America, like in Minneapolis, that person is ruining Western civilization. You know what they mean by Western civilization, right? But like, he's masked off now that Charlie Kirk's in power. So yeah, Charlie Kirk still was very covert in his way to rise to the top. He did not come out saying, I'm a fascist, I'm a fascist. Another reason Hassan is stupid.
They come from a long tradition of democratic socialists from like UK, Australia. He brought up Clement Attlee, and this is not some fringe movement. These are democratic socialists that exist in countries all over the world.
The West has fallen.
We're not talking about this idiosyncratic belief of socialism.
Again.
It's a version of socialism that exists, and you're okay with it being part of the party. So the question isn't one of categorical. You're okay with some socialists. You would vote for some socialists. I'll ask Connor the same question. Connor, are you okay with someone like Bernie Sanders being on the top of the ticket, AOC being on the top of the ticket of the Democratic Party?
No, I would either abstain from voting or I would
He's a Republican,
vote against them. Like, for instance, if there's a moderate Republican compared to AOC or Bernie, not that moderate Republicans exist anymore, but if they existed, I would pick a moderate Republican over AOC or Bernie.
Yeah, I think the bigger disagreements between you and Destiny. I think Destiny's okay with some socialists being a part of the Democratic coalition.
Connor,
that'd be a good question for Destiny. Would you vote for John McCain? Oh, thank you for $10, PP. Thank you, Josiah. $10. Who's winning? I think Econoboy's winning. He's played 20 seconds of the match so far. We're in halftime, all right, but he's still winning somehow because everyone else is definitely losing.
Connor's a Republican, so I would expect him to.
But the only person who has said anything direct to the point, like I've been saying about, like, you know, the conversation is idealism versus pragmatism, blah blah blah. The only person actually saying that is Econoboy, but Pisco and Destiny are having a little bit of a...
To say that, yeah, no shit. But voting for somebody is a lot different than appealing to somebody. These are two different things, and we keep playing like this clever game of trying to solve whatever.
Everybody worship the Oxycontin pill doll. Please, subscribe or you got to go to rehab. You know the rules of the stream. Subscribe or go to rehab for Oxycontin. I'm from Appalachia. I can say this.
Describe us.
Hold on. Let Destiny finish his thought, please.
Well, that's it. No, I'm just saying that, like, appealing to somebody is a lot different than voting for somebody. I'm guessing if I was in New York and there was a plethora of candidates, Mamdani probably wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd probably vote for him in the primary, or I'm sorry, in the general. But that doesn't mean I would like want to appeal to a socialist or whatever.
But I agree that
okay, like we have to. I think there's a useful thing to look at what this actually looks like in actually existing politics, right? So in 2016, when Bernie Sanders got, I don't know, 45% of the vote in the primary, something like that. He was involved in the platform committee for the DNC. He was like a main speaker at the DNC in 2016. He was able to extract a lot of concessions to the party. Like I think that because of him, the party added in marijuana legalization, a $15 hour minimum wage.
True.
I think carbon pricing, and I think maybe there was some stuff about the death penalty. I want to say that was something that Bernie Sanders.
Econoboy coming back in with the facts. You build up political capital like Bernie's doing, and you use that political capital to move the main portion of the party to your position, like Bernie did with Hillary Clinton and with Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders did so well pragmatically in the. Thank you.
Push to add into the Democratic Party platform. You know, and again, that's like a very direct appeal to Bernie Sanders and like an appeal to the unity between the centrists and the socialists and the Democratic Socialists.
No, nothing. What policy there was socialist?
Okay, so
Destiny, here's where we're going to run out of the problem, because nothing that you just said there was socialist. And there's this game that's played where
Destiny, you're wrong about that. You're completely wrong. Okay,
15 an hour is socialist?
Okay, do you think a progressive income tax is socialist?
Not necessarily, no.
Right. So the Communist Manifesto proposed a progressive income tax, right? So,
but that's if you're proposing, like if you want to shift the system and the power dynamics in a way that can eventually get like socialism. Just having that tax in a capitalistic system in a liberal democracy would not be. It's just different words. Yeah, the words are stupid. It's just words.
Does that make it a socialist policy?
I would say, generally speaking, that the Communist Manifesto, you know, the manifesto of the Communist Party, like it probably is something of an authority on what it means to be a.
Yeah. That's what someone just said. Like a social democrat and a socialist would both push for a progressive income tax, but a social democrat might stop there or like stop at a bigger welfare state, and a socialist is going to say no. We need to start taking away private equity and start decommodifying things. Yeah.
The Communist Manifesto is a pamphlet made so that farmers could read it and join a violent revolution against the state. The only reason really we're going back to defining.
No, this is sneaky. What you just did is sneaky. So what you just did is sneaky. Oh my God, this is so bad faith. So Econoboy brings up a point. He says, is this policy socialist? And as it's sort of embodied in the Communist Manifesto? And you call a broader point and say, well, the Communist Manifesto has this other purpose. That's not the question on the table, whether it has other purposes.
That's not the point. So that's not the point. So the point is that it's not about whether or not we would semantically define something like a progressive income tax as communist or not communist. It's about these broader movements and what their general ideological disposition is on all of the different set of possible positions within the policy debate. So I would agree to your point that like in terms of socialism being the decommodification of labor and also like the collective ownership of the means of production, if that's the way that you define socialism, then obviously these aren't like socialist policies, quote unquote, but that doesn't mean that you're not appealing to like the broader socialist movement and the broader like socialist apparatus of advocacy when you propose things like a $15 an hour minimum wage.
Why are we saying socialist and not progressive? I think that middle part in America, like liberal, means essentially like center left in this world, at least. I feel like you would just say there's liberal, then progressive, then socialist. Then progressive is social democrat. I feel like it would just be a progressive policy. I'm sorry, progressive. So it's like we cater towards progressives, but not like leftist, socialist, or whatever.
Econoboy, just for clarity, so I understand, you're saying, when you say I want to appeal to socialists, you're saying things like, oh, pick policies that socialists would also like.
I'm saying that saying that insofar as socialists and very progressive Democrats are a part of the actually existing base of Democratic voters, they should have some proportional say in things like party leadership positions, committee assignments, the platform of the Democratic Party, fundraising distribution, activist-based organizing.
Yeah, just like Bernie Sanders did, you have a certain portion of the party, you have enough political capital, and you move that political capital in a way to get leadership positions and everything else. Now, what the party needs to do, if Bernie gets 30% support in the party and Bernie wants 30% of the seats in the DNC, or something like that for progressives, the Democratic institutions can't be super adverse to that. So like right now, the way they're handling Mamdani is terrible. The way Chuck Schumer, I mean, I don't know if Chuck Schumer's even doing anything at all whatsoever. Hakeem Jeffries, the way they're handling Mamdani has been terrible so far in terms of managing the party. The DNC right now, bro, it should have been Ben. It should have been Ben, bro. We got, what's his name again? I forget his name even. The current DNC chair is, I'm sorry, he's pathetic, bro. He was on a video call crying, saying he wishes he never became chair and he wants to quit. He's on a leaked Zoom call crying. Who's the current DNC chair again? I can see his face. I saw the videos of him talking. DNC chair. Current chair DNC. Ken Martin. His name is Ken Martin, bro. We could have had Big Ben from freaking Wisconsin.
strategic discussions. They should have some kind of proportional say in all of those discussions.
But the problem is those people, if they truly identify as socialists and not just like liberal light or socialist light or whatever we're calling these people, they're not going to be pushing for these outer perimeter things that socialists might agree with when it comes to liberals. So when you say like a $15 an hour minimum wage or like a progressive taxation system, that these are quote unquote socialist policies because they're mentioned in the Communist Manifesto.
Your opinion, progressive should refer to social and cultural ideology. I feel like historically we refer to progressive with like both of the Roosevelts, maybe LBJ. Like the original progressive label was Theo Roosevelt, right? Or was it? I guess in a modern understanding, I don't know. It's hard to say because progressives in my realm of reality, I usually think economics because the progressives I think about AOC and Bernie, they don't talk about culture as much. Like Bernie's a class reductionist, pretty much. It's hard to say. You
don't need communism or socialism to talk about either of those issues. And what I don't like is this weird game that's played where somehow socialists are allowed to no true Scotsman every single good thing that our capitalist liberal society has produced and say, oh, well, you like vacation days? That actually came from socialism. You like a minimum wage? That came from socialism. You like labor unions? That came from socialism. And every bad and shitty thing is ascribed to the capitalist part, despite the fact that that's what's even creating the necessary prerequisite wealth to even have these other things.
Okay, a capitalist who's very into capitalism is very unlikely to push for regulations for labor. Okay, they're very unlikely to do that on their own, unless if they have pressure from further left factions. So like those things did come from socialist ideologies. It came from socialists who act pragmatically in the system, moving the party more left. Like.
What does that have to do with? Wait, I don't know what that has to do.
It's not from socialism. The way they're having this conversation is just bad, bro. Someone said it gets worse later on. Wait, Christian said, "I'll see a condo boy in what's that? What are you calling Pisco? You're saying they're bad faith? I'll see more later on."
At all with what I just said. What I'm saying fundamentally is that I think it's sensible to make policy concessions to the broader socialist apparatus insofar as they're a part of the base. It sounds like you don't even.
We don't have to make that's not a policy concession to a socialist.
It would be considered as such.
Hold on.
It would be considered as such.
No, absolutely
not.
Yes, it absolutely would. If you got rid of all the socialists, could you still get a $15 an hour minimum wage?
Yeah.
Then it's not a policy concession to socialism.
Wait. No.
Destiny, under really quick, Pisco. Destiny, even under quote unquote liberal economic frameworks, people in my replies are calling countries like the Nordic societies liberal capitalist societies, even though they do quote unquote socialist things as you would just define, like social ownership of the means of production. Like
those countries have huge wealth funds from their oil reserves and other investments in pharmaceuticals. Like they have money because they're very low. They have a lower population. They have less to deal with. They have a higher concentration of rich people. They have huge reserves of wealth funds and oil. Like you can say those are like collectively owned things, but they are still done. It's not. I would not call those socialist.
There's a lot of quote unquote socialist policies that those countries have engaged in that
pre-watcher. Yeah, I watched the first 10 minutes earlier. I did not watch the whole thing.
People are labeling as liberalism and doing these kind of things, and it's like whatever. If we want to have narrow definitions of things, that's totally fine with me. But I think that insofar as like the socialist movement, and when we went to the topic of the debate, courting the left, right? Conceding things to the left, the broader left. I include very progressive Democrats in that who might identify as capitalists or might be misaligned in some way. That includes things like broader progressive policies, like I mentioned the death penalty, minimum wage, things like that as well.
When I say court the left, and when I was designing this topic, maybe I could have been more clear. I'm not talking about issues that both liberals and leftists share. Like
it came from liberal policy, not socialists. Who do you think organized the labor unions? I'm not saying they're super radical leftists and socialists and communists or whatever, but yeah, liberals supported those policies. That's why we want liberals and stuff. But like we saw it in the Hillary and Biden campaign. Biden's whole agenda was scattered with Bernie Sanders policies. All right, the Inflation Reduction Act was 90% Bernie Sanders and Green New Deal stuff. And without the progressive socialist, democratic socialist, whatever wing of the party, that policy looks a lot different. I don't know.
Like both of them agree that we should treat kids nicely. Both of them agree that we should be kind to our neighbors, things like that. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about things that are specifically and
name them. Name them. So if the
only decommodification of basic.
Yes, we know the people in power were liberals. Okay, people in power were more liberal. Like FDR, I would not even say is a socialist. He's more of like a liberal populist national. Like he. FDR was pretty much like a liberal authoritarian, if you can have one of those. Like
human needs and workers owning the means of production.
Holy fucking shit! So if
Hassan is a good example, right?
Hassan isn't a policy.
He is a great.
Hassan isn't a policy. If you're talking about appealing to people, Econoboy gave you a response. He's talking about things that these people care about, socialists care about. If all you're talking about is people,
Okay.
holy
No.
shit.
Okay, so I'm going to say something that pisses me off about this conversation. Oh, somebody else started talking. I'm going to roll my eyes. Shut the fuck up, Pisco. Take your eyeballs and fucking shut them the fuck up, okay? So saying everything good is socialism is dumb as fuck.
No one said
okay?
that.
That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, we did. We just did. I just listened to it. Hey, shut the fuck up. I listened to you talk for the past 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Shut the
but we
fuck up.
didn't straw
Shut
man
the
the
fuck
shit
up.
out of you,
Shut the
Connor.
fuck
You're
up.
being an idiot.
You're a fucking idiot.
All right,
Dude.
shut
He
the
didn't
fuck
say
up.
that. No one said that.
Hey, my turn. I have the talking stick. Shut the fuck up. Okay. So saying like, oh, a minimum wage is socialist. Progressive taxes is socialist. Firefighters is socialist. Police are socialist. Teachers are socialist. This is the kind of fucking bullshit that is the obfuscation that I'm talking about, where you're basically talking about normie lib governmental policies that are perfect.
Okay, but how did they become normie lib governmental policies? In the same way Republicans can't cut like things like Medicaid or Social Security, they became mainstream policies that are long lasting. There's a reason they're now considered not to be extreme, because society was moved in that direction by certain factions of the liberal party in America who were further left, most likely. And there were some, like, it's not accredited to just socialist. And this is why using these words is stupid. Because we have people from broad ideologies, and listening to Hutch has been a big thing. Talking about radical pragmatism. Like Hutch said that Zoran Mamdani is further left to him, but if Zoran can keep up a pragmatic streak and do all the stuff he's saying and show discipline, that Zoran could be Hutch's JFK. Like, he's that radically pragmatic to the point where, you know, people like Hutch on that Lib and Learn podcast, which they should have me on. They should have me on. They refuse to. They refuse. Don't delete VOD. Don't delete VOD. I'm gonna put this up as a video probably. I forgot what I was gonna say now. Whatever.
Conducive to a free market fucking state, and you're like, it's just a gradation of the economics. Well, why don't we just go with the right wing definition of socialism, where socialism is when the government does anything
things.
ever whatsoever. Then at that point, I'm a
6 years
socialist.
ago.
Fucking JD Vance is a socialist.
You saw me 6 years ago.
Everybody's a fucking socialist.
Hold on. Give it to Pisco and Econoboy.
Yeah, so Econoboy specifically.
Well, you should catch my call-in streams. I might do a call-in stream when I'm done here. My call-in's on YouTube Short. I'm a YouTube Shorts streamer now. I'm like a TikToker on YouTube. Those are fun.
Didn't say that. I'll let Econoboy do, but you're just not listening. But I want to talk after Econoboy.
So
Thank
so
you,
just to
Kyle.
be clear, again, I'm grounding everything that I'm saying in the actually existing people that call themselves socialists and call themselves very, very
If there's a good
progressive.
policy,
Now,
we
if I
should
could
do it
just finish,
regardless
you're
of whether or not
listening
it
to all the
appeals to
bullshit
socialists.
about interrupting.
listening.
So
No, I heard it.
okay. Well, you interrupted. So just give me a second here. I'm grounding this in the
You line about
actual
it all.
existing people that call it socialism, that call it whatever, very progressive capitalism or very progressive like policies in general, right? So insofar as you're saying, oh, my narrow definition of socialist policies is decommodification of labor and the socialization of the means of production, then to be fair, according to me and according to some other policies that have been proposed, that is like almost exactly what we would be doing.
Give us an example, just an example.
Oh, wait, actually, wait.
my
No, wait, can I ask a question just real quick?
Fuck this! I didn't come here to play the no true Scotsman for fucking
Wait, also
40
wait, not the
minutes.
policy again.
That's
I'm just
not what
curious
I'm
because
doing. I'm doing the exact opposite.
It's the
Okay,
exact opposite.
Econoboy keeps bringing up like AOC and Bernie Sanders. Can you name somebody in the media environment that identifies as a socialist that is friendly towards the Democratic Party?
I don't know. What is
in
that
the
relevant?
mainstream media environment? or-
Anybody
Why
in
is
the
that
media
relevant
environment,
to the conversation? So you want to change the
Because
Maybe
conversation?
don't make another point.
I
This
don't
isn't
wanna
a
change the
courtroom, you son of a
conversation
bitch.
because politicians have to operate.
Mehdi Hassan, I'd say he's radically pragmatic and pretty pro supporting Democrats in elections and pretty positive towards good parts of the party. He's very pro-electoralism. I'd say he's a good example. They don't need to agree with like Slotkin, but the way they engage cannot be like Crystal Ball or Kyle Kalinske the way they do it.
Within the very real world of trying to get elected. So necessarily their positions are going to be probably a bit more constrained. And also these are people
True.
that, I mean, maybe Connor has, but I don't shit on AOC or Bernie Sanders. That was never what this conversation was ever about, like ever. Like, I'm curious, in the media environment, are there any people that identify as socialists that are friendly towards the Democratic Party in the United States of America?
Wait. Why
A
is
single
that
one.
relevant to whether or not the Democrats should?
Because my main criticism, I'm telling you, because my main criticism is that you're saying Democrats should appeal to socialists, and you're picking the outer perimeter socialists that are the least socialist people who have won elections by being the least socialist people, saying that the outer perimeter beliefs that we're appealing to are things like a $15 an hour minimum wage, which aren't even necessarily socialist policies.
Yeah, that's the big conversation here. Is you have Bernie Sanders and AOC winning elections. There's a reason they are not nearly as radical as Kyle Kulinski or Hassan or Crystal. All those names, they are not that radical because it doesn't work to win elections. So that is the key point here. Destiny's talking about the people like Hassan that are pretty much outside of the party. Destiny's talking about like Jill Stein voters or borderline Jill Stein voters. That's who he's talking about. Should we appeal to Bree Joy Gray? She's probably a better example that's more explicit. That people would say like, yeah, we should not be catering towards her. Like that's the entire conversation here.
The issue we have is that the central tenets of socialism, like the abolition of all free enterprise, the abolition of all private property, the destruction of the political parties in the United States of America, those are the people that are dominating the media environment. And you're asking us to appeal to those people to capture people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. I'm not worried about the AOCs and Bernie Sanders. I'm worried about the people that work for Bernie Sanders, like your Brianna Joy Grays, or the people running the entire left-wing media online
pre-watched
apparatus, which is why
the panel just ended and I already pre-watched it, although I never did.
Asking for a single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party.
Bree Joy Gray.
I don't know.
Okay, Destiny finally made a point. All right, he finally made a good point an hour into the conversation. Good job. Finally, dude. Put this link, if you're in the Destiny subreddit, put it in here, or put it in there. Put my link in there. Put my stream in there. Bring more people in here. We got to show them some more pragmatism. Get them right to the point of effective messaging, because this is a dog shit conversation. Holy crap!
If you're asking for a single person who identifies as a socialist that supports the Democratic Party, there's obviously a
Jill
lot
Stein,
of those people. I just said those are 10%
Putin's dinner
of the people
puppet.
that vote for Democrats. Now,
Okay, and I want to make this point because it's relevant to the conversation we're having.
Okay,
fuck you, Pisco.
No, dude,
if every time you open your fucking mouth, I go,
oh
shit.
It's impossible for you guys to linearize because your whole job here is to muddy the waters. What economists presented.
I think you're muddying the water. That's exactly what I'm going to accuse you of momentarily. So shut up and listen.
You and Wick are being brought in to give cover to Destiny.
Then we'll get counter.
I'm gonna offer clarity.
Stop. Pisco first,
So
and then you can respond.
clearly, with respect to policies that socialists support, if what we mean by appeal to socialists is to literally propose policies that these types of socialists would support, you guys are okay with them, certain of these policies, right? And we're just now defining what the scope.
A good convo here would be, should we support people who are yelling at AOC, demanding her to say genocide every 2 seconds and to block defensive Israeli aid, all right? Yelling at AOC for not supporting Marjorie Taylor Greene, her anti-Semitic amendment that is focused on anti-Semitism and conspiracy, all right? And I know some people did vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment. Not good politics, does nothing. Teaming up with her has no value to it. Like she thought there's space lasers from Jewish people, like, you know how that goes. But who would tell AOC she is a piece of crap Democratic shill, corporate Democrat? Those are the people we need to hyper focus on here.
But that agreement is, what the scope of that overlap is. But you don't have a problem in principle with appealing to socialists if by appealing to socialists we mean promoting policies that they like.
Social Democrat policies.
Yeah, but that's a meaningless statement.
Policies are good.
Okay, so now let's actually
wait. Are you okay with appealing to members of the Ku Klux Klan?
I would.
Yes,
they like clean drinking water. Are you sympathetic?
Piece of shit. Let's say that you do like city renovations where you have clean.
I mean, Trump won by appealing to the KKK. I mean, he won by doing that.
So now let's actually talk about the policies and whether they get to the core.
No, you have to answer that question. Would you be okay with having a party
I'm okay with a party. I'm totally willing to buy bullets. You know I buy bullets. I'm totally willing with a party to appeal to members of the Ku Klux Klan if what is meant by that is appealing to common sense policies that everyone can. Excuse me.
Do you think MTG is anti-Semitic in the Groyper sense? She's an old-fashioned KKK member. Like, the reason she put up that tweet about Pope Francis dying, saying like evil has been cast from the world, she is in the she's in the Catholic hating part of Christian nationalist. It's like Christian jihadism. Like it's the KKK Christian wing that she's from. It's different from Groyper's. I don't understand Groypers that much, to be honest, because they are like Catholic, right? So it's a newer. I'm not sure how to.
Wait. It's not a.
I'm not educated enough.
Because there are policies that you would consider socialist. I think under your definition, no true Scotsman definition of socialist, that maybe the Democrats should appeal. So, for example, would you be against
Protestant? But that Protestant could be a lot of different things. So
socialist policy.
No.
Okay, can you give an example of a socialist policy?
Things that involve taking away the means of production from private owners, from capital owners, and giving that so that the workers are exclusively the ones that are in control of the means of production.
A single payer healthcare system, let's say health insurance system, let's putting aside national healthcare, a single payer healthcare system that makes it illegal or outlaws private insurance, you would not say that's socialist?
If you're talking about the government owning everything from the top down,
NHS?
then including the hospitals, then theoretically you could call that socialist.
Could
Some
you or
people
would
might
you?
put
Sorry,
it as
sorry.
a
Would you call that socialist?
people might-
Would you,
okay,
Stephen?
But if the NHS isn't ran through a democratic means, it'd be national. It'd be a nationalized system. It would not be a social. These words mean different things, though.
I
Stephen,
understand it. I know.
not mine.
We're having
All the words.
Would you call that socialist?
All
Yes
the
or
words.
no?
I would call it a state-owned enterprise, or state-owned enterprise is
Yeah,
socialism.
state-owned
Like technically not really, but sure.
nationalist.
We can say, sure, we can say
Wait.
that.
Is your answer that a single
Is
payer
it
system
really
is not socialist?
democratized?
Is that what
It's
your answer is?
socialized, but not democratized.
I wouldn't call it socialist, but if you wanted to, for the purpose of this
No,
conversation, sure.
I want to know your opinion. So I'm asking your opinion. Your answer is no.
A mixed
Single payer is
economy.
not socialist. Okay, and if that's the
I
case,
don't know. I don't think it's necessarily like a social policy. You can call it if you wanted to. You could. But,
No,
but
I'm not
if
asking
you wanted
if I wanted to. I could. I'm asking your opinion. I'm not saying if you want to, you could.
I've never seen someone yell about such an inconsequential
I wanted to
conversation.
give you a yes or no
So
answer.
inconsequential.
I want
I'm gonna
your
motivate
opinion,
you.
dipshit. Hey,
Bro.
dipshit.
Okay,
Hey,
there you go.
Hey, dipshit. I
Stephen,
want your
I'm
opinion. I want your opinion, dipshit.
You don't want an opinion. You want a yes or
your
no?
opinion. I want your opinion. Do
You don't even know what the difference between a state-owned enterprise and what it is.
Do you think single payer? Stephen, do you think single payer? Stephen, I'm not asking would someone else. Could you? I'm asking you, Stephen Bonnell. Do you consider single payer to be socialist?
I wouldn't call that socialist.
Oh, no. Okay, so this is who's the no true Scotsman here. You guys were saying like the policy that most people who would absolutely consider to be socialist is not socialist, and so our working framework of socialism is only tankyism, only people who want to decommodify everything.
Yeah, that's a good. Pisco did a good job separating that there. Maybe not the most like eloquent presentation, but that's the. There were about 50 different off ramps to get to this conversation. I'm surprised this is the one that was. Look at Pisco's face. He's vicious right here. He's ready to go.
And have government ownership of everything, and it's preposterous. You're just not operating with the way people use those words.
That's great. That's literally not the argument, though. But if you wanted to argue that if we were to call it socialist and you wanted to socialize the healthcare system, the reason why you would be doing that wouldn't be because you're trying to appeal to socialists.
Words, Stephen. Weasel words.
It's called politics.
If you want to.
Can I finish my answer? Holy shit! There's a difference between doing something by. So, for instance, I'm a free market capitalist, but that doesn't mean I oppose government intrusion into every single sector or even a government monopoly on things like, say, utilities. Because there are some things that the free market doesn't solve
economy,
for. To say that
wow.
I don't think the free market solves for this, so we should have utility companies ran by the state is not the same as saying I'm appealing to fucking socialists.
I'm not saying
that
it's
is
the
such
same.
a naive reading of politics.
I'm not saying.
So when you ask me if a single payer system would be socialist, I might say, I guess you can consider social if you want. The reason why I'm advocating, though, for a single payer system isn't because I'm trying to appeal to socialists. It's because I think free market capitalism cannot solve the problem.
So this is the obfuscation.
I don't finish. Yes or no? Yes.
Yeah, that's basic liberalism.
Sure, no. What is a woman? What is a woman? If we're doing that,
like in liberalism, you have it as a key defining part of it, where you can have free market systems and then choose the failings to provide a socialized backing. Like that's within liberalism. Because in socialism, they would be pushing for further than that. If you push.
Socialism, we can do that. Okay, go for it.
So the obfuscation is the question isn't.
There's no obfuscation.
It's a personal debate. Okay. For Pisco and Destiny, if I was Pisco and I set up this entire thing with the Democratic chair candidates, and it got ruined from that scandal with Destiny, and he's been involved in a lot of scandals. Regardless of what you think from the court case, I've seen different things about it. It seems like he's not going to get in trouble for anything from what I've seen. If someone has other information, definitely feel free to shoot me an email to jolahpolitics@gmail.com. But from Pisco's perspective, I'd be really mad if I pull all those strings, get him in the room with all these different possible Democratic Party leaders, and then you have to tell your partners. Imagine Pisco telling the people. Pisco having to tell his contacts with the DNC and all these staff members, like, hey, you know that guy that interviewed your person a few days ago? Well, here's the scandal they got involved. I'd be frustrated in that situation. I'm sure there's other stuff going on between them, but that's just one thing where it would be definitely awkward. And if they had a bad falling out from that, it would probably make it worse too. So.
Our confusion is not me obfuscating.
The obfuscation is as follows, and I'll identify it. The question isn't whether or not the intention behind promoting single-payer system is one way or another. We're not talking about the intention behind why you propose one policy or another. We're just asking in pure semantic terms, would most people call socialized medicine, socialized healthcare, would they call it a socialist policy? And your absurd deflection on that and say, no, I would not call it socialist. I think just you're not using the terms.
Can I answer the question very straightforward?
Here's the question.
I wouldn't call it. Oh, Connor tried to talk. You don't call it socialist because socialism is a scary word. You have to call it good words like yay, healthcare. Don't say much else. Don't make it too complicated.
Wait. Do you think that Hassan would call it socialism?
I don't. Wait, why is that relevant? I think
Why is the
socialist.
largest left-wing
God.
stream irrelevant to what
To what a
mainstream thought
word
is
means?
amongst
To what a
leftists
word means?
on the online media sphere?
Hassan is so,
wait,
so
you
the
just said it.
Communist
Wait,
Manifesto,
wait,
the
you just
Communist
say that.
Manifesto, that is not authoritative on socialism,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Hassan Piker is.
No,
Make
it's
that
not.
make
The
sense.
Communist Manifesto is not
But
authoritative
Hassan
on
Piker
socialism.
is. Hassan Piker, who you said is a fucking limousine
Yes,
socialist.
according-
Yeah,
yes.
he's definitive on that, but not the Communist Manifesto.
Hold on, I just want to be clear. You're telling me that something that was written almost 100 years ago is more authoritative on what modern-day
Than Hassan
socialists
Piker?
believe
Maybe,
than what the
maybe.
largest, than what some... Okay, well, I encourage you to do more research when it comes to politics, I guess. Yeah, I don't know what to
Let me
say.
step in here. So if we're appealing at that point though, Destiny, if we're appealing to what people who call themselves socialists actually think, hey, the authoritative source of what socialism is the actually existing socialists today and what they believe in, right? Then in terms of whether or not we're like acquiescing or appealing to the socialist movement, then yeah, like the Bernie Sanders platform concessions of 2016 would count within that reasonable framework, that he was able to raise the minimum wage requirement of the
Econo Boy saying the same point from earlier.
Democratic Party National
good
Committee.
points.
He was able to add in things like legalizing marijuana, and so
Didn't Econo Boy say this the other times he spoke for a few seconds? Connor's looking desperate.
we're hopping back and forth between
Americans, if we talk about the meaning of a word, you'd probably go by if there's a massive consensus around a different word or a definition for a phrase or a term, you'd probably go by what most people understand that word to mean. On CNN and MSNBC, they might say progressive for far left, but they say that Joe Biden's a liberal and Bernie Sanders is more liberal and Donald Trump is less liberal. They use or Donald Trump is more conservative. Although Donald Trump is not a conservative whatsoever, he is a illiberal, authoritarian, demagogue, fascist. The American people know liberal, centrist, conservative, all right? More liberal, less liberal. Bernie Sanders is super liberal, bro. He's so liberal. Hassan Piker, ultra liberal, bro. If we want to talk about consensus and the meaning of words, that's what we would probably go by.
Some socialists say socialism is decommodification of labor, but
the difference there is Bernie Sanders is appealing to liberals. Liberals aren't trying to appeal to socialists.
Okay,
right? When Bernie Sanders recommends the legalization of marijuana, that's not socialists, right?
Okay,
that's Bernie Sanders trying to do something in a liberal capitalist framework.
so
He didn't say the government needs to grow weed.
Reformism versus revolution. Okay, so Hassan wants revolution, Bernie wants reformism. Those are...
Sorry.
Okay, so
that's the conversation
number
for
one,
that.
I take it that you take back the thing you said in the beginning.
How
of
are
this
they
debate
missing
of
the
when do
conversation
socialists ever appeal
point
to
so
liberals
much,
by just
dude?
now saying that was an appeal to
100%,
liberals.
yeah.
It's because of the moderator.
Because I said at the
being so
beginning, I don't
bad.
really consider these people socialists. Cook, follow the conversation,
Okay, so now Bernie Sanders isn't a socialist.
Oh my, bro, they've been looping on this. Idealistically, he is a socialist. Pragmatically, he is not. That's all you gotta say once, please. Someone on this panel. All right, please, bro, please. It's such an easy conversation, bro.
I don't consider these. Didn't I say at the beginning of this conversation? I don't really consider these people real socialists.
Okay.
No.
But Destiny, but what you did say was the actually existing contemporary socialists like Hassan are authoritative on what socialism is. And so if people like Bernie Sanders, and if I could just finish my point, fuck's sake, if people like Bernie Sanders and people like Mamdani and people like AOC say things like publicly owned grocery stores and single-payer healthcare systems and the expansion of a public education are socialist policies, then we have to agree with them, or at least we have to say that they're a major influence on what it means to be a socialist policy under your own framework.
No, and I would like an opportunity to speak.
No, I want Destiny to really clarify that really quick. Just does that
I
mean
really don't, because then I'm going to sit here with my hand on my dick and balls for the next 10 minutes. So I would like an opportunity to speak.
Hold on.
You guys can go back to yelling to each other.
Counterpoints, please. Destiny.
Great moderator, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm a Wick hater. You can like Wick, but his panels are terrible. They discuss the worst topics on the internet. Like I said before, if you want to hear bullshit, go to Wick's channel. All right, you can hear a crazy story in the media: kids dying in floods, people losing healthcare. You can hear about tsunamis. You can hear about the meteors about to destroy the earth. And Wick's going to be talking about how Destiny can perfectly attract Roblox player. Whatever. It's okay. It's okay. This is what the left does. All right. This is what the left does. We have debates over words, about definitions, about debates, about definitions.
I was asked a direct question. I'm gonna let him give you a direct
Connor should go right over me. Okay, listen. I don't think that you look to the lawmakers in a democratic system to see who your ideological thought leaders are for certain movements in the United States necessarily. Okay, they're running in certain districts and they're running under the confines of trying to operate within some electoral system so that they can get stuff done.
I would do panels if I had the time for it.
I think that if you want to have this argument right now of like, does Bernie Sanders and AOC dictate what socialism is in the United States?
I miss
Honestly,
Dylan
when you
Burns
say
or
it,
whatever.
maybe when Pisco said it, I'm not sure what planet he's on right now, okay? But when you say it, kind of, I think you genuinely believe that, and I don't think you're saying that like with stupidity, and I don't think you're saying that with malice, and I don't think you're a secret pinky or anything like that, okay? I understand what you're saying there.
Check your comments, bro. Check your comments.
But the problem is that when I go outside, let me explain what the comments come from. The problem is that when we go outside of where Econoboy is, there is nobody in the United States media environment, okay, that like calls themselves like really like a socialist that would look to people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and say, oh yeah, those are socialists. They would call those people stepping stones in the radicalization funnel and good like liberal capitalists at the end of the day, which is why these are some people that get the most.
Who says that? Like 0.1% of the total population in America, bro? Like,
Hold on.
I want to turn. I want to turn because, frankly,
we are putting the liberals in a funnel to make them into socialists later on so we can radicalize them and turn them away from the Democrats to cause a revolution. Who's thinking this, bro? Other than Hassan? Like, I think Asmongold is a bigger issue than Hassan. By far, Asmongold is a bigger issue from Hassan. Hassan probably has a bunch of, like, already the types that would not be voting or engaging in the way we want them to. So, like, Asmongold is turning kids into engaged Republican Nazis. So, like, I feel like that's a bigger danger, and Asmongold has a bigger platform and even dumber commentary. At least Hassan needs to play nice with Bernie Sanders and AOC, and his audience is gonna, you know, he still platforms them enough to vote, you know, for people to vote for them. But, like, when it comes to our focus on who we should be attacking right now, it's probably not. We should probably be making new innovative strategies to go after the right, not doing.
You guys are talking past each other, okay?
Hey, I'll do it, though. I'm not a big creator. I don't have enough of an audience to make a difference. So I'm going to have fun, and I'll laugh along with them. Who cares? We could go into the volcano together.
The reason why I've reiterated my definition of socialism as narrow and tailored is because I'm not doing No True Scotsman, okay? I'm telling you what a fucking Scotsman is. It's a Scottish person from fucking Scotland, okay? It's a dude. He wears a kilt. He has his fucking dick out all the time, all right? So the point is, I'm describing very specifically what it is. And the reason why I would be pissed about universal health care or high quality education being labeled socialist is, number one, I think most committed socialists who have read any books about socialism wouldn't agree with that definition. And the only way that I would stretch it is if you considered universal health care or universal access to health care as a part of the decommodification of basic human needs, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure was just food, water, and shelter. But what I'm saying is that the reason why I think that Econoboy and Pisco, whether they like it or not, are useful fucking idiots for committed socialists. And
think about this for a second. So Turning Point USA, what do? So right now, we know the biggest driver of radical right-wing politics is isolation. The pandemic really helped fuel conspiracy theories and Trump's ascension to another term. All right, COVID broke people's brains. The isolation does. Isolated people in rural areas, especially in homogenous communities, mostly white men, are going to be better radicalized in those conditions. Now, what does the right wing do? They know they are isolated, and Turning Point USA is waiting for these individuals when they are finally able to socialize and get to college. It gives them a social group. It shows these young men, oh, you're isolated here? Oh, it's because of all these groups that hate white men, and they killed rural America with all these trade deals and blah, blah, blah. And now Charlie Kirk goes to campuses, makes them feel cool about being in like a social group. They bring like God into it. They have them, I mean, there is girls and guys. They meet their partners there. So they're isolated, become more right-wing, watching Asmongold and a bunch of different like far-right streamers. Then they go and finally socialize. And the point they go to socialize is Charlie Kirk, who is literally like a KKK. Ideologically, he's a Christian nationalist, like a KKK member. Unironically, he talks about a Muslim born in America is going to destroy Western civilization. We need to deport all legal foreigners and illegal foreigners, and the black pilots, all the blacks who fly can't actually fly. They get jobs just because, like, you have to understand how that radical pipeline actually works on the right. And how do we intercept that? Not with the Unf America tour. How do we have a real focused strategy to give social groups and social circles that can make people less isolated and prone to radical ideologies, and instead move them into a more pragmatic direction? But the issue is, all the people with a big platform, not me, I don't have the platform or the resources, all the people with the platform and the resources have their heads so far up their own ass, they're about to do loop-de-loops in their own body. All right? So they don't see where the pragmatic strategies are, where we need to go. We are too busy fighting the left and making our strategies to go after the right in a way that appeals to the left, to seem like the coolest person, the most pragmatic, the most stylish person on the left. We need someone to understand this media, like infrastructure, ecosystem, whatever, and to replicate it and meet the cause of the root cause of the problem at the source to change it. But we're not going to ever get it because we're a bunch of pushovers. The UNF America tour fell apart over microaggressions, and now they're led by destiny. Like, we want to connect to real people, regular people on college campuses. This is not the way to frickin' do it.
Tankies and communists is because they fucking muddy the definitions. They fucking blur it around. They're just like, oh yeah, every public service is fucking socialist.
Connor, give us one example, therefore. Give us one example of a socialist policy. Go.
Making food, water, and shelter available to human beings at the point of service for free.
So you think, so why is that socialist, but doing the same thing with health insurance isn't? And it's because one is basic human needs?
Because I'm going based on...
Could capitalist liberals not push for some workers? They could push for some, but also, like, if you look back at the workers' movements or the agrarian tendencies of farmers and moving into factories and the Gilded Age into the Great Depression era and all the regulations we had from 1900 to the post-war time. Okay, so like you have to look at in those periods of massive union development after the wars, after Korean Wars, like after once we start hitting our industrial peak in the mid 1900s and late 1900s, like what percentage of the labor unions pushing for the weekends and workers' rights, what percent of those were actually like further left people? Because from what I know, union organizers I know, they usually are pretty left. Like they are pretty left. In many instances. Now, socialism is a weird way to frame it, but again, it's about idealism. Because I can, in a different system, I can be further left, but like right now, I'm pragmatically going to be more center left, progressive liberal, whatever. Because that's what works right now to make the world better. So I mean, it's a tough discussion.
Well, yeah, because I'm going off of the fucking definitions of shit. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
So healthcare is not a basic human need, but food is.
Oh yeah, and a lot of unions were also very racist and stuff. So like they were very anti-immigration. They believed all the immigration lies. FDR, his big coalition was based off of being able to work with racist Democrats and Dixiecrats. So like that's another thing to consider when we talk about socialism. Usually socialists were a little bit more egalitarian and more equality focused.
You're arguing is that healthcare is socialist and should be incorporated into the definition.
I'm actually asking you a question. Is food more of a human need than healthcare is, as you're seeing it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I think that's cooked. I think that's fucking cooked and arbitrary. I don't think you can point to...
Wait. Is food not more of a human need than healthcare?
I gotta ask.
Everyone needs food, you fucking idiot. Not everybody needs healthcare. What the fuck are you talking about?
Do you think that healthcare is as important as food?
No, I think food is more important than healthcare.
Okay, so you agreed with Connor there. I don't know why you just said Connor was cooked.
Yeah. But wait, no. You're cooked in that I think most people consider in basic human necessity need healthcare as well as food. Not that food is more important or less important.
You asked.
No, it was Pisco literally.
Which was more important? Did I miss that? Hold on, wait. Did he ask which one was more important, or did he say we're both important? Which is more important? Thank you. Okay, he did. So you just totally mischaracterized Connor's point there.
No. I said, is it more of in the sense of is it more of a basic? Is it more of a basic human necessity in the sense that it's a separate category of thing? That there are separate categories that food is a basic human necessity in the way that health.
You don't need a code. You can just say you misspoke.
Also, it doesn't. Hold on, wait. Just to be clear, because you're trying to bail yourself out. It doesn't make sense what you just said. Is something more of this in a category, or is it just in the category?
No, it makes sense.
Okay, so when I'm playing like the forest and I spawn in, my first two things I need are going to be food and water, so I don't starve to death and thirst to death. I need medication if I get sick or something, but like the first two primary needs to even get to the medication is usually food and water. So based off like survival games, my only experiences in survival games, in real life we structure society around games like the forest. And Minecraft and Grounded and Rust. We really did a good job replicating that for the real world. But yeah, it's a good guiding principle to go off of.
Is a word focus more of a car? So
you put out this category.
You fucked up. You realized what he said was retarded.
This is all weaselness.
Pisco wants to.
It is weaselness. We agree on that.
Food and water are healthcare. I mean, I agree it should be considered that, but we don't consider it that. Like in America right now, we put healthcare in a very high tier versus food and water. Now, I agree it should be bundled together in terms of human rights. I do agree it should be a right. I think it should be a thing we give to all people. Obviously, I'm in favor of universal healthcare. I'm just saying that from a scarcity perspective, which we don't have scarcity, but from a scarcity model, we would go for. You'd say that food and water is obviously the peak, and good food and water can prevent the need for future healthcare if it is less toxins and blah blah blah.
So when you say the word a basic human necessity, all right, a basic human necessity, in what respect is food a basic human necessity with respect that healthcare is not? And I'm trying to see what are the metrics by which you assess healthcare to be more of a basic human necessity.
I would like to answer this question so it doesn't become a screaming match.
Wait, stop. I'm clarifying. No, wait, I'm clarifying. So just because I say something is more important, and I'm going to get Destiny to agree with this, just because something is more important, I consider something to be more important, doesn't mean it's more of a basic human necessity, yes or no?
Who?
Steven. To say that
you're tripping up your words. You just said again. You said more of a basic human necessity, but what you mean to say it doesn't belong to the category of basic human necessity.
Wait, Steven. Is the term basic human necessity and important the same?
No.
Okay, so saying something along the spectrum of basic human necessity and importance, those are different questions, right?
We're debating whether or not.
Steven, are they different questions or not?
Those are different words.
So is something on the spectrum of basic human necessity the same spectrum of importance? Because importance can encompass more than just something that's basic human necessity, correct?
It can be more important along the spectrum, sure.
So there's no contradiction, right? Can you identify contradiction?
No, vegan gang, sir.
Awesome.
I cannot identify contradiction.
So I don't want to debate.
You asked if it was more important than healthcare, and you said yes. You said it was.
I don't think it's interesting to debate whether or not Pisco got dunked on just now. Okay, I want to go back to what Destiny said previously, which I thought was pretty interesting. So Destiny made the claim that the people that he would look to determine who are the ideological thought leaders of socialists, like people who label themselves as socialists, wouldn't be people necessarily like Bernie Sanders or Mamdani or AOC. Now, I would say this is pretty absurd for a number of reasons. Okay, if we look at hey, when people go and have public events, right? Like, hey, Hassan goes and has a public event. How many people show up?
Scolded.
I'd say maybe a few hundred. Maybe he gets into the
Just
one.
wait till I watch the Crystal Ball interview with Slotkin. I'm gonna do a regular stream after this. I'll probably watch this for a little bit more and cut it. It's a pretty long conversation. I'm not watching the whole thing. It's a pointless conversation too. This is for views, and I give a couple takes on this. It's
1,000+ club or something. When AOC and Bernie Sanders go out and have an event, thousands of people show up. They can fill stadiums, fill arenas. When people actually go out and express their political views, what are my political views? Millions of people voted for Bernie Sanders. Hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people across the country.
I might just say, guys, please drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back at. I'll watch this for a few more minutes, see if it goes anywhere. I'm sure there's more entertaining parts in the debate, and I'll make sure I say like I'm not watching the whole thing. How long does this go on? Another. It goes on for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Man, no. Over this conversation, is there going to be a more clipped up version I can go to so I don't have to watch the whole thing?
Vote for democratic socialist politicians. And so when we look at democratic socialist and socialist politicians, they are clearly, by ideological standpoint, and by their
but like, okay, this is what I said again. Wix panels are by far the worst things on the internet for politics. It is a mess. It is brain dead. It's
to collaborate within Democratic Party frameworks and electoralism, much different than Hassan and much more emblematic of the standard by which we should judge people who label themselves as socialists in this country.
I would like to address this directly.
Just real quick.
Cam research: food and water security are the most important factors for a civilized, stable society. Medical cost is an after effect of a stable, civilized society. True.
Oh, I got to quick. So hold on. I'm sorry. Why didn't the DSA then endorse AOC?
Because she came out with that vote on for the national DSA retracted their vote because of the Iron Dome vote that AOC took in the middle.
Seems like kind of a problem.
But that's not a socialist. That's not a socialist.
The DSA is not socialist.
Destiny, you're obviously.
It's a bad example.
Okay? The point is not.
It's a horrible example.
No, please go, Destiny. 1 second. The reason I say you're obvious.
I feel like that's the whole point of the conversation, though, is it not?
Skating is because my point was not that, for instance, within DSA,
like the far DSA Hassan types that would probably vote for Jill Stein in many instances.
Within all of these different democratic socialist politicians, even within those people, Mamdani is not the same as AOC, and no one DSA member is the same as any other one, okay?
We're not talking about one DSA member. The national DSA did not endorse AOC.
They did endorse Mamdani. They did endorse Mamdani, okay? They did endorse many other democratic socialist candidates. I understand that there is
sure, but
an exception. If I could just finish.
So between Zoran and AOC, though, the gap between them to say I'm going to endorse Mamdani but not AOC is crazy. It's insane. Because if you put Mamdani in the situation that AOC was in to vote for a policy like the Iron Dome funding, and he makes a pragmatic decision to say I'm not going to vote with Marjorie Taylor frickin' Greene, for example. If he, who knows? He probably would he vote for? I don't know. I don't know if he would vote for her. I'm not sure. But like, let's say he needs to make a pragmatic decision, and DSA drops him instantly. That seems really purity focused.
I understand that there is an exception to the general rule of democratic socialists, like the organization endorses, different people who call themselves democratic socialists. But that's not an argument against my fundamental point, which is that when we agglomerate all of the people who call themselves socialists and run for parties and have people come out and vote for them and support them, that is a fundamentally different group of people on average by the normal distribution of their beliefs than people like Hassan. And I think that we should judge them by who they vote for more so than by Hassan. Hassan, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree. You agree?
Jesus.
Okay. Well, then, thank you.
Okay.
Counter.
All right.
I love you, Connor.
Okay. I think what happened with socialism was that if you actually go back to Bernie Sanders in the fucking 80s and 70s, he was doing apologia for Cuba. He was doing apologia for the Soviet Union. He did apologia for Venezuela in the fucking 90s and thousands. And you know what happened? Each one of those places ended up being absolute fucking shitholes. And so what he had to do, shut up, is he had to move to social democratic models in the Scandinavian system and abandon his previous hardcore shit. But there's a question of whether or not social democrats are actually just hiding their power level because they're trying to inculcate a left-wing philosophy I'm not done yet, you cunts.
This is totally relevant.
Shut up. Why is it relevant? This is the entire conversation. The entire conversation is whether or not social democracy is being used as a Trojan horse in order to infiltrate the center left. That's the whole fucking conversation.
So you're asserting a conspiracy without much evidence. You're just saying, oh, Bernie actually conspiratorially supports things like Cuba and the Soviet Union, and he.
No, like objectively, Bernie did moderate. He moderated on things like immigration too. When he ran for president, he has moderated very much so. He could not be super openly socialist in the modern era and be effective. He did make a pivot there. I want to give benefit of the doubt, but if Pisco, I hope he's not making this argument because it's a really bad argument. I'm not gonna lie. AOC has moderated away from being a socialist publicly because she needs to be effective. I'm misunderstanding. I'm definitely misunderstanding. What's
he might have realized that he's wrong ideas. He might have moved off of hardcore socialism.
Hold on, just real quick.
He could still be a socialist. Oh wait, maybe Pisco and Accountable are saying that Bernie's still a socialist, but. Again, the thing I said before about pragmatism versus idealism is
but Hassan hasn't.
Hold on, just real quick.
Second thought hasn't.
Hold on, stop.
They're not politicians either.
Not even the worst behaved here.
Is that there are leftists.
How does Wick yell at Connor after everything? He yells at Connor? Counterpoints? Wick yells at Connor after all the screaming this entire time?
Who have said explicitly that their goal is to infiltrate the Democratic Party to move it towards leftism. It is not a conspiracy in the sense of...
it depends if they want revolution or not. Bernie does not want a revolution. That's why Bernie literally goes on podcasts and Bernie says to people, we do not want a revolution because people will die. We want to reform the system. It's too scary. It's too bad. It's going to be terrible if we do a revolution. Bernie, it's reformism.
It's crazy. It is a conspiracy in the sense that these people
Wick is suppressing right voices. True.
This is our goal for doing it, and this
is how that relevant to our discussion? Why is that relevant?
It's relevant to the discussion because should we, the Democrats, allow or invite into our house as influencers, invite into our house as staffers, invite into our house as people we will engage with or collaborate with in a friendly way?
If a Democrat runs on universal health care, it's not going to be pandering to socialists. It's going to be populism. It's going to be a general sentiment of America. Americans broadly agree with decommodifying parts of healthcare. Maybe not all of it, but parts of it. When I talk to Republicans on my show, all the Trumpers, they are usually in favor of universal healthcare because it's like, hey, why does Australia have better healthcare than us, and Germany and France and blah blah blah. This is a terrible conversation, bro. Me in this conversation, I would be directing this conversation in a great way. All right, I'm just saying, not to toot my own horn, but I would be. This is kind of pathetic. I'm not gonna lie. Holy crap, I'm done watching this. But yeah, please drop a like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back in like 20 minutes. I'll do my regular stream till 1 a.m. 11:30 to 1 a.m. Trump is seriously considering a full pardon for Diddy.